And a good morning to you. Welcome to the show. The Back Nine Boys Golf Show is brought to you by Mizuno Golf Reach Beyond, by Sea Palms Resort. Become a member at seapalms.com. By Club Car, the leader in sport utility and personal vehicles. By RSM, proud sponsor of the RSM Classic, giving back to our community. And by Bridgestone Golf. Get fitted for your Tour B ball today. On the show, we're going to talk with Director of Instruction Jason Bale at Jupiter Hills Golf Club, who has worked in the past with Darren Clarke and currently works with a lot of PGA, LPGA, Live Tour champions, Latin America, Canadian players. We'll talk to him about some of those similarities. Plus, we'll talk tours and rumors with Golf Channel's Damon Hack and then former Golf Channel announcer Mike Ritz, now writer. We'll discuss also with him the tour battles, the impact on the game, Ryder Cup, President's Cup, all that stuff. First up, though, is Director of Instruction at Jupiter Hills, good friend Jason Bale. Good morning, Jason. How are you?
Good morning, Rich. I'm doing great. Hope you are.
I am. How are things in Jupiter today?
Things are wonderful. Just got here to the club and the Performance Center, and going to start teaching right after you get me off your show, and have a great day with it, and then maybe spend some time with the family.
Well, that'll be a good weekend for sure. Well, you've worked with Darren. I know you don't work with him now, but how happy were you for him when he became the fourth player in history to win the Open and the Senior Open?
Absolutely ecstatic. Darren is a good friend now and a great guy. Enjoyed my time with him very much, learned an awful lot, and I know how important the win was for him. That was something that we set out last year to do. It was on our to-do list, so it was really, really wonderful to see him pull that off. Spent some time in at his club in Abaco, Bahamas, teaching this summer, and everybody was really excited about the coming weeks and what possibly could happen. So to see him pull that off and just grind it out down the stretch was absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that was a great win. He's such a likable guy. I mean, it's like he plays the game. Yes, he is competitive, but he also just seems like a guy you'd like to hang out with.
Certainly. I mean, it's having my time with him. We were good for each other. We could get in each other's face, but then we could laugh and have a beer afterwards. And so he's everything you want a guy to be. He is absolutely.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, smoke a cigar, have a pint, as he would say, but jovial, and he just looked thoroughly thrilled when he got done in the win.
No, he deserved it. He works, there's this persona of Darren sometimes, and that he's, that affable guy that wants to do exactly what you just said. And then there's the side many people don't see, and it's how hard he really works, and he really does put the time in. He's not afraid to work hard at it.
Well, you've worked with Darren. You've worked with PGA players currently, Live players, LPGA champions, Canada, Latin. Right now, there's a lot of battles going on with all this talk. I mean, what have you heard from some of the players that you work with? I guess more specifically, maybe Peter Uihlein, who now plays regularly on the Live Tour, about what's going on. I mean, they've left behind a lot of stuff, but they've got a lot to go forward with.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was having this conversation with a member the other day because I kind of feel like being in the middle of some of it. I've had this kind of big change in how I view it.
Right.
Do I wish any of this had happened? Absolutely not. I mean, I don't. Am I like? I just have a different view on it now because of being inside the ropes and hearing the things from players. And some stuff that maybe the public kind of just doesn't know about how hard it is to play professional golf for a living and make a living doing it. I mean, you can be the 75th player on the money list for the Korn Ferry Tour, for instance, and you keep your status for the next year, but you're probably down about $85,000. So you lost 85 grand and you got to keep your job. And so there's some areas in there, where the money's. I think I heard not too long ago that if you finished 41st at the AT&T Byron Nelson 5 years ago, and you finished 41st this past year, that you may have made more money 5 years ago. So there's some stuff in there. I think that's it's not a. I'm not saying it's some kind of coup or anything like that. I just think that the way the money's been structured and the way the players have kind of gone through this, I think it's going to shake out in the long run to hopefully help the game. But boy, right now it's a firestorm. And I just hope we can all come through it with golf being a better game, and then I think we're okay.
Well, a lot of the guys who I've heard and read about that went on the Live Tour, I mean, obviously money became a big factor, generational money type thing, playing less tournaments, although, next year that is going to change. They're only going to play more. But the PGA Tour, a lot of people, I don't think, know that it costs a lot to enter tournaments, to go to Q school, to try and make it on the tour. And it's quite expensive in order to even have a chance.
Absolutely. No, one of the first things we do when we start working with a younger player who, is tell us about your money situation.
Yeah.
Do you have backing? Because that means so much to the comfort level of the player when they're going out there. And if they're, beg, borrowing, and stealing to kind of come up with the money just to compete, that's a heavy grind on a lot of players' minds. And so, it costs a lot of money to play professional golf. And somebody's got to come up with it. If that's something that's going to wear on you, then that has to be taken into consideration constantly.
Yeah. What's Peter talked about? I mean, obviously he's financially set, but I mean, does he enjoy the competition? Does he feel it's an exhibition? Does he feel it's competitive? Has he talked anything about that with you?
Yeah, we've had several conversations right before we left. We were preparing for Bedminster last week, and the big thing is Zach Guthrie, his caddy, was here with us, and so the big thing is they're having a blast. They've been treating them well. It's a very different feel. I think they're trying to do a bunch of stuff for the fans. And make it kind of an event. It took them a little while to get into the shotgun thing, which I think from a viewer standpoint is kind of cool. But I think from the players' standpoint, they're like trying to figure that out a little bit. But now 3 weeks in, I think they're good with that. It's the competitive stuff is there. I mean, you don't take the players that are on that tour while it may not be as deep as I assume it will be by the end of the year. But if you take, the major champions you've got there, the Ryder Cup players that you've got there, and then the money on the line, it's going to be competitive. So the exhibition thing that I've heard, tossed around, I wouldn't agree with that. We're playing golf. We're playing professional golf with really good players for some money. So I know that feel is competitive. It was from the get-go. But as far as the way they treated the caddies, the way they treated the players, I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you, let's talk about instruction, because it's what you do, and it's what you love to do, and you do it very well. I was talking the other day with some players, and they're saying they're having issues with their putting. And one of the issues is, where do I put the ball when I'm putting? Is it under my dominant eye? Is it in the middle? Is it more towards the front? I mean, do you have one way to do it, or are there just a bunch of ways to do it?
Well, I'd answer that question. Everybody's a case study of one when it comes to that. So, where you put the ball is going to have a lot to do with where your putter aims. So traditionally, players that aim the putter too much to the right would move the ball up, and players that aim too much to the left might move the ball back a little bit. Mike Shannon, when I worked for him there at Sea Island, was a big proponent of that. But if the ball gets too far back, we're going to strike down on it instead of having the putter rise a little bit through impact. So there's having a lot of that is trial and error, sometimes used with a laser, working back and forth. I personally, when I go to putt, I try to get it underneath the logo of my shirt. I think if everybody kind of started there as a logo on the left chest, and I walk in, I just kind of feel the ball underneath the logo. And my eyes slightly inside the ball line. I always kind of start people there and then see how they react to that.
Okay. All right. How do you fix hitting the ball fat or thin? And is it the same issue? I mean, do you do things differently when you hit it fat and do things differently when you hit it thin, even though the results are horrible?
Well, I'm glad you asked that part. Is it the same problem? A lot of times it is. So they're two totally different shots.
Right.
But the problem is you're not controlling the lowest point of your swing. So if we just kind of start with that, like, I'm hitting it fat and thin. I'm not controlling the low point of my swing. All right. So what's the next easiest thing to go to after that? It's like, okay, where's my ball position? All right, because if we're hitting it thin, chances are the club's bottoming out before it gets to the ball and then rising and hitting it thin. You just didn't make a divot. And then when you hit it fat and you bottom the club out prior to hitting, you just made a divot. So it can actually be the exact same thing.
Yeah.
A lot of that, if the ball's in the right spot and we're still doing that, then the pivot starts getting involved, where the pressure might be in the backswing pivot might be shifting to the outside of the right foot or the trail foot. And when that happens, we get some slide or sway in the backswing.
Hmm.
And now it's basically the ball's moving in your stance without moving. We've got pressure issues in your pivot.
Yeah. Well, I've obviously got some pressures in my pivot and I may be swaying a little bit more than I think I am. The hardest thing, I played 100 holes of golf last Monday
I
for the
saw
first
that.
tee program. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I realized during that, which I wish I could do it when I play more often, is that you stop thinking about it. I mean, you say, I've got 150 yards in, you grab a club out of your bag, you step up, you got 99 holes left to play. You stop thinking about it. But when you're playing 18 with your buddies and you're trying to get points or try and beat the other team, it's amazing how many thoughts go through your head.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I saw that you did that. I think that's really cool. Congratulations and the first tees. I'm very lucky to have you there.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. I mean, it's going to be a yearly event, so I mean, they raised a bunch of money. But I need to come down and see you. I know you've put out invitations to me before, but I need to come down and see you because I want to see your setup down there at Jupiter Hills Club.
Great. We would love to have you, Rich, anytime.
All right, Jason, thanks for taking away from instruction and giving me some instruction this morning. I appreciate it. You have a great day and enjoy your family this weekend.
You as well, and all my best to everybody at CI.
All right, take care.
Yes, sir.
Jason Bale, Director of Instruction at Jupiter Hills Club, down in Jupiter, of course. And coming up, we're going to talk with Golf Channel's Damon Hack. How was it going over to the Open with all the other controversies going on over there? But you will never, ever have a controversy when you check out the monthly specials created by the local elementary schools. And that happens only at CJ's Italian Restaurant. I think the best deep dish, best pizza, period, in this area. The deep dish is phenomenal. The thin crust is good. The cauliflower crust is just exceptional. Every morning from scratch, they make their pizza doughs, their breads, their sauces, dressings, toppings, everything. That list goes on and on. Produce delivered fresh and prepared daily. And if your kid is having a birthday party, what a place to go. But CJ's, you can get them pizza dough. They can play with it. They can make their own pizzas while they're there. I mean, just a great place to take the family, order in or take out and make it real easy for you. Check out their full menu and you'll love everything they've got at cjsitalianrestaurant.com.
Hal Sutton here. You're listening to the Back Nine Boys here today.
And welcome. I'm Rich Stiles. Thanks for being with us. Our next guest is Damon Hack of NBC Sports Golf Channel. Good morning, Damon, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Rich, good morning. How are you, pal?
I'm doing good. I hope you are.
Absolutely, yeah. Raising these triplet boys with my wife. One of my boys is in the tennis semifinals of his tournament. So, a little tennis, maybe a little golf this weekend, all is well.
Awesome. That is great to have the family, and glad he's doing well, and you'll be a proud dad watching him out there competing.
Oh, no doubt about it. It's a lot of fun to be a sports crazy guy like I am, and to have three sports crazy sons is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. All right. Speaking of being pretty cool and sports crazy, how good was the last day at the Open at St. Andrews?
Oh, Rich, it was so good. It was just a wonderful week. The gallery was so appreciative of the quality of golf. The 150th Open at the old course at St. Andrews. You had Jack, you had Tiger, you had Tom Watson walking around as a newlywed. I got to chat with him and his new bride, Leslie Ann. I spoke to John Daly. Everywhere you look, that's what's so cool about an Open at St. Andrews. It's such a small town that everybody bumps into everybody at dinner or, walking to and fro the course. And then you had Rory McIlroy. I guess the only, bummer for the fans was the fact that Rory couldn't find a way to get it done. All due respect to Cam Smith and his remarkable round of 64 to close it out. But you could tell that the people really wanted Rory to get it done.
Well, they did. And I don't think Rory played badly. He had some great putts. The speed was perfect. They just ended up not in the hole. And Cam just had an unbelievable back nine.
Exactly right. Maybe Rory was a little conservative. It looked like it was going to be a two-horse race between he and Hovland, and he was well ahead of Victor Hovland. And all of a sudden you had Cameron Smith making birdies by the bunches, and it was just Rory could not, change his game plan at the time. A little conservative, maybe off the jump.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, he's a chaser and not able to get it done. But kudos to Cam Smith, a remarkable up and down for birdie at 18, a great up and down for par at 17, and a 64 in a final round at the Open is one he'll remember forever.
Yeah, and, Rory just wasn't Rory, it seemed like, for the last 10, 12 holes. He just seemed, as you said, to be protective. He was playing conservatively, and that isn't normally how he's won in the past.
Exactly right, and it's interesting that in these major championships now he's going to be going on 9 years without one. That's where, we're missing the Rory of old. It's not that he's not winning anymore. He's won FedEx Cup and won the Players' Championship, won a couple of Canadian Opens. These are big-time events.
Yeah.
But we just have not seen him break through for that fifth major championship. I tell you what, though, he had a fantastic major championship season when you look at it on the whole. A great closing 64 at Augusta. It was in the mix in the top 10 of all four major championships. So it's definitely not a season to sniff at, but he's trying desperately to kind of break that major championship curse going on 9 years now.
Yeah, you bet. And I was very impressed. I was actually surprised at the finish of Cameron Young.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, he doesn't live or didn't grow up too far from where I live. Sleepy Hollow, his father's a Sleepy Hollow, longtime head professional there. So he kind of grew up in the Westchester County circuit metropolitan golf area where there's so many fantastic courses. You think about Wingfoot and Westchester Country Club, Quaker. He grew up around some great golf courses and some great golf people. Cameron Young is someone who is looking for his first win on the PGA Tour. Actually, he's on the leaderboard, playing very well at the Rocket Mortgage in Detroit. So much like a Will Zalatoris, I think Will and Cameron Young are two of the best players without a win on the PGA Tour. But I expect that both players will check that box shortly.
Do you think that now that Cameron Young is young, first of all, young player, great player, he may have a target on his back as far as the LIV Tour?
Excellent question. I think a lot of these players are going to have targets, and I think the women's game may be even more vulnerable than the men's game. And we've seen a lot of great male players. Bubba Watson, the most recent to agree to join LIV. He's a two-time Masters champ, such a big part annually of the Travelers Championship. You think about the tears he had when he broke through for his first PGA Tour win. Loves to play Torrey Pines, loves to be a part of the Presidents and Ryder Cup. He's saying goodbye to a big part of his career. So
Sure.
I do think that a lot of young players will get, asked. They'll get the phone calls, and I also expect the LPGA, whose salaries are much smaller, whose purses are much smaller than the PGA Tour players. They're going to be very, very vulnerable, I think, to Greg Norman and this upstart rival circuit.
Oh, that's going to be an interesting. I know that the LPGA commissioner was saying she would greatly, like to have a conversation. Where that goes, it's amazing where it's going, and unfortunately, I'm not a fan of the drama and the battles, but it's here to stay. It's not going to go away.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. I think that it hurts both products. I think you've got a fracturing
Yeah,
top of professional golf. I mean, who wants the Ryder Cup with no Brooks, no Bryson, no Reed, no DJ, no Poulter, no Sergio, no Stenson, no Graham McDowell, no Westwood. I mean, these are kind
Yeah.
of the lions of their respective
yeah.
PGA Tour, European Tour. It's sad to see the fracturing, I think, at the top of the game.
Yeah, I've heard somebody refer to the Live Tour as a pre-champions tour. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yes, it's not a bad comparison when you consider the age of most of the players, 40s, or in Phil's case, north of 50.
Yep.
My biggest problem is they're trying to say it's competitive and it's competition. You go from 72 to 54 holes, guaranteed money, music playing. To me, it doesn't really feel like the height of competition.
Yeah,
And
I
maybe
agree.
I'm old school that way. I think it's something different. I think that the money is obviously the biggest attraction. You're hearing the players say, well, I want to grow
Sure.
the game. I think it's more about growing their wallets.
Yep.
Some people have had financial issues. Bill's talked about his gambling. Stenson lost some $8 million in that Alan Stanford Ponzi scheme. So everybody has to kind of make their own decision and sleep in their own bed. But I'm uncomfortable with where the money's coming from. I'm also uncomfortable with the fact that I don't think it's really high-level competition, which is what the PGA Tour has been all about.
I totally agree with every point you just made. One question: how do you feel the fans treated some or all of the LIV players that were playing at the Open?
Yeah, Poulter got a couple of cat calls. Phil got maybe one. I know Phil was heckled actually yesterday at Bedminster. A fan who said you're being paid by they're working for the Saudi royal family. I think that for the really dyed-in-the-wool golf fan who pays attention, he or she may have a problem with it. But I actually thought there'd be more heckling and booing at the Old Course. But the fans there are so wonderful. It was
Yeah.
more about the golf. There was a cat call here or there, but I think at the end of the day, your first reaction is, oh my gosh, there's Phil Mickelson, or oh my gosh, there's DJ, and maybe there's a disconnect between all of the things going on outside the ropes, and your first reaction is to want to be positive and root for players that you
Right.
rooted for a long time. But I think the golf fan who is paying close attention, who really has a problem with what's happening to the game, those were the ones who were vocal at the Old Course and will continue to be vocal, I imagine, as the weeks and months wear on.
Yeah, and some of them are probably saying, boy, there's Phil. Oh, I haven't seen him in a long time. Oh, there's DJ. Haven't seen him in a long time, except on social media.
Yeah.
They don't have what they would like, which is a TV network.
That's exactly right. And of course, they signed David Feherty, my former now colleague at NBC
Yeah.
Golf Channel. So they took a run at Charles Barkley, who decided ultimately to stay with TNT and do his NBA thing. But make no mistake, this Live Golf Series, they have deep pockets, and they're throwing a lot of dollar signs at a lot of different people to make this series appear as legitimate as possible.
Damon, frank question. Were you surprised that David Feherty went with the Live Tour?
I was, Rich. I tell you, I actually bumped into David for breakfast one morning down at the Rusacks Hotel, which is right along the 18th fairway. I just saw him. I was on my way out. He was sitting down for breakfast and said good morning. We had a very short chat. Didn't even cross my mind that Live was even a possibility. We didn't talk much about golf. We were just kind of saying, hi, how are you doing? Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
I think that David is such a talented broadcaster. I'm more saddened that we at NBC and Golf Channel couldn't find a way to keep him. Obviously, the numbers must have been immense. I think he's such a marvelous talent. I was a huge fan of Feherty, his interview show.
Sure.
Loved him back at CBS when he was making jokes with Gary McCord. I'm just sad that he's not a part of the NBC Golf Channel family anymore. The dollars must have been big. David is a grown man, a wonderful talent, and made his own decision. I'll always respect him as a person and a colleague. But yeah, personally, I'm sad that he's not a part of our team anymore.
Yeah, I'll bet. A lot of people will miss him. Ryder Cup, President's Cup. Do you think, we've just talked a little bit about some of the fact that who won't be playing. Do you think it's been diminished? Do you think it's going to not be as exciting? Or do you think Davis and Zach are going to be able to find some of these young players and maybe some older players who maybe wouldn't qualify as a captain's pick, i.e. maybe Webb Simpson, to be on the team in order to gain some stability?
I think it'll be a talking point leading up to those matches, but I think once it's time to put the tees in the ground and hit some golf shots, it's not a poor thing to see the likes of Justin Thomas and Scotty Scheffler. Maybe you do get some young players like Will Zalatoris and Cameron Young, and then maybe you do get some veterans like a Webb Simpson who is staying on the PGA Tour, or
Right.
Stuart Sink. I think once they put the uniform on, once you start having the pomp and circumstance, once they get to Italy in 23 or Charlotte in a few months, I think that the quality of golf will still be high. It'll be a backstory. It'll be interesting if there are if some bodies that we feel like are noticeably absent, but I still think that the talent on the PGA Tour is deep enough to make it a fun competition.
All right. What'd you think about Stenson basically walking away from the Ryder Cup captaincy, which is what a lot of players, whether it be European or U.S., strive for? I mean, that's like the culmination of their career in order to be a captain for the Ryder Cup. And he just kind of walked away. And I, from what I read, it's like he didn't think he would have to walk away.
Yeah, he thought he could do both, that he can kind of pick from both baskets. And I'm surprised that he took the job to begin with.
Yeah.
He thought that it was a possibility that he would leave, because on that March day, we actually had him on Golf Channel and my show Golf Today, and he was talking about the honor and the joy, and I'm the first from Sweden, and this is for all the Swedish players who came before me, and it was kind of a beautiful story. And with the rumored league at the time, you knew that Stenson's age was the target that they were looking for, but I just thought that his 5-time resume as a player and as an assistant captain as well have carried the day, the pride of putting on that European uniform, and it just wasn't to be. I was more sad for him and more sad for the game, because what a wonderful moment it would have been for him to be the first Swede. And I know that the folks in Sweden, especially with the Swedish Golf Federation, were very disappointed with the decision.
I'm sure they were, but I think a great decision, Luke Donald, I think should have been the first choice anyway.
I think so too. Would have been a much safer play. Also, someone with fantastic a Ryder Cup bona fide, a former world number one. I think that once we get to Italy, the story will be hopefully about Luke and his players and about Zach and his players. But right now, you said it, man. This story's not going away, Rich. We're in the thick of it, and it just seems like 1 week it's Henrik Stenson. The next week it's Bubba Watson, and I sadly think that's going to be kind of the rhythm of these upcoming weeks in golf.
Yeah, I think we're not going to be done. It's still going to be in the headlines. It's going to be probably the first or second story, but it's unfortunate what it's done to the battle, and it's not over. And Damon, I appreciate your time. Enjoy your weekend, and good luck in the tennis tournament today with your son.
Thank you, my friend. Always great catching up, Rich.
All right, take care. Damon Hack, Golf Channel, Golf Today, great guy, just talking about all the stuff that's going on with LIV and the PGA Tour and how they're being treated. And we're going to have more with that with our next guest, former Golf Channel announcer Mike Ritz, now a writer, a very good writer, but we're going to talk with him in just a minute. But first, you got to decide whether the clubs you're using now are good for you. And if they're not, you need to check out the Mizuno irons, the 922, 923, and 925s. They will improve your game. And they have this new Mizuno driver that's coming out, fairway metals and hybrids. Their game improvement, they will really change your game, improve it, make it better. And they have also got blade putters, mallet putters. Try those out as well. But check out everything on MizunoGolf.com. Mizuno Golf, reach beyond.
Hi, this is Jimmy Roberts from NBC Sports, and you are listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I met Jimmy at Sea Island. He was playing golf with some guys, and I talked to him and asked him if he'd come on the show, and he was just so kind to do that. Also being so kind to be with us this morning is former Golf Channel announcer Mike Ritz, now a great writer. Good morning, Mike, and how are you?
Good morning, Rich. I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I am doing great, and I appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday morning to be with me and maybe give up a tea time, but you still got time to get out there.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hey.
I enjoyed our visit with each other last time, and was very happy to get your invitation to come back.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and you've written a lot about the PGA Tour, the Live Tour. I mean, everybody's talking about it. You can't pick up social media or anything on golf without them both being in the same sentence even more. What are your thoughts about the battle? It's not going to end, but what are your thoughts all about it?
Well, let me first start by saying what has happened with me the last few weeks, and probably with everybody else who writes and talks about golf. The first thing I do in the morning is I do a Google search of LIV golf to see what's happened overnight.
Yeah, see who signed.
There's usually something.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I was doing this morning, waiting to come on with you. A typical morning for me. I've got Golf Channel on the TV. I'm watching the Women's Scottish Open and reading all the reports about the Live Golf event. It's whether you like it or not, it certainly has grabbed everybody's attention.
So
and it's not going away anytime soon.
No, it's not. I mean, they just have too much unlimited, endless pockets. But do you think that Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour have handled this situation properly?
I'm not. Let me put it this way: I'm not impressed with how Jay Monahan has handled this. From the very beginning, he's gotten better, but I don't know if you or your listeners saw the first interview he did with Jim Nantz when he went on the tower.
Oh yeah.
It was embarrassing.
Yes,
I thought. Every question that Jim asked was obvious, and it didn't seem like Monahan was ready to answer it. And I pay pretty close attention to things, and even at this stage now, I'm still not sure why the PGA Tour doesn't like Live Golf. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. I'm just saying their argument against it has not been clear. I mean, I can make any number of arguments as to why I don't think Live Golf is comparable to real golf.
Right.
I think it's exhibition golf. That's all it is. It's not competitive golf. The fields aren't great, despite what they try to sell.
Right.
The TV product isn't great either. But I don't think Mr. Monahan nor the PGA Tour has done a very good job of articulating exactly why it's such a bad thing. And I think what's going to happen eventually, and I'm not going to be foolish enough to predict anything, but I think what could very well happen is that Live Golf will continue to live in a different fashion and will be accepted by the PGA Tour and the former European Tour, now known as the DP World Tour. And what's going to happen is that, to some effect, Live Golf is going to become what used to be the silly season. We're going to see the PGA Tour, this is actually what I would like to see happen. I think it makes sense.
Okay.
The PGA Tour plays its new schedule. Thankfully, they get rid of that wraparound season that went from fall through the next fall.
Right.
Ridiculous. They're going back starting in 23 with a January through first week of September. We'll see the playoffs end. Well, that's a perfect opportunity then for Live Golf to step in and have its tournaments or outings, which is probably a better way to describe them. We've got virtually 4 months: September, October, November, December, and so that becomes the silly season. And now you've got guaranteed money out there for all the top players, which is what Greg Norman wants to have.
Right.
And here's an opportunity now. It's not going to be in conflict with the PGA Tour, and it gives these players great money, and it allows Norman to do whatever the heck he wants with how he presents his golf tournaments. I think it's a win-win for everyone. If as long as you don't get into the political fight, which is something that isn't going to go away either.
Yeah, I mean, Norman has got this vendetta against the PGA Tour since the early 90s.
Right.
That's not going to change. But Mike, in your scenario, what happens to the 2022 fall events, that, go
Right.
from September to November? What happens to those?
Well, those are already going away with what the tour has come up with its new schedule. So we don't even know what the tour's new schedule is. Monahan has talked about what's going to happen in the fall. We're going to have worldwide events that are similar actually to what LIV is doing. They're going to be no-cut events for a limited field. I think it was 40 or 50, and from the top players coming off of the FedEx Cup points list from the regular season. And then they'll have another handful of tournaments that will serve as what used to be Q School. And that handful of tournaments will allow the players who were in the bottom 2/3 of the PGA Tour FedEx Cup to earn the right to return to the tour. So the events that we see now in 2022, they're going away anyhow. Those fall events are not going to exist as we see them now.
Oh, well, that's going to hurt the sponsors.
I beg your pardon?
That's going to hurt the sponsors of those events unless they decide to go to another event.
Right. But you can, the events that exist now in the fall are there because they're weaker events and they're not requiring as much money from sponsors. And if the tour, no matter what happens, whether there's any kind of a joint venture or something that allows LIV to live in the fall alongside PGA Tour, the events that will be required for PGA Tour players to maintain their status, those are going to continue to exist, Rich, I think, no matter what.
Right.
And that, so then you'll have, I don't know what they're going to be. It hasn't been spelled out yet, but you may very well, that'll be your formerly the Shell Houston Open. Of course, Shell's no longer there. But the Houston Open and the event at Sea Island and a couple other events that we're seeing now in the fall, I think they'll still exist, but they will just exist in a fashion that isn't as what should I say, spectacular.
Now
they'll be second tier events.
Yeah, so not as they are now, but they still will have the events.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Whether LIV or not, whether LIV is going to be allowed, players are going to be allowed to play there or not.
Right.
Because again, what the tour is going to do is they're going to, right now, at least, they're going to have their events for the top players and the other events for the players trying to keep their cards. And, you mentioned, Greg's, one of the things I wrote is how difficult it is for him to give up a grudge.
Yeah.
Back in the early 90s, and when he was proposing his world tour.
Right.
Well, the tour would never admit it, but that's the reason World Golf Championships came into existence.
Exactly.
Right? In direct response to what Norman was trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now and what the tour is saying it's going to do in the fall now is exactly what Norman's trying to do.
Yeah.
So the question and we're seeing it in all sorts of protests this week at the event in New Jersey. Part of the reason being its proximity to Manhattan and Ground Zero.
Right.
Protests because of the money for Norman's tour is from the Saudis, and that's not going to go away. But the PGA Tour has not made it clear at all if that's a reason why they don't allow their players to go there.
Yeah.
They have not articulated that at all.
Yeah.
I'm not taking, and no matter what, and they have that. So that goes back to your original question about what do I think about what Jay Monahan has done. In some regards, he's actually hidden because he allowed his players to play in what used to be a European tour event for a couple of years, and this year was an Asian tour event, which was the Saudi Invitational or International, I believe it was called. But again, it was in Saudi Arabia, and the money came from the same people. And that was okay.
Yeah.
But this is not. I mean, and then, of course, the arguments, well, why was it okay to play a World Golf Championship in China? But this is not okay.
Yeah, I got you. I totally agree. It's kind of back and forth and not strong on one side. But, Mike, let us take a quick break and let us come right back because I'm going to continue this conversation.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. We'll be right back with Mike Ritz right after this.
Hey, this is John Wade, Director of Golf at Ocean Forest Golf Club, and you're listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. We're with Mike Ritz. Mike, we were talking a lot about Monahan and the PGA Tour, and now Liv wants to talk to the LPGA. I mean, the money that they're talking about given to the players that go from PGA Tour to Liv is incredible. When they go to the LPGA, if they decide to do that, the money is going to be like double what they're getting, maybe triple what they're getting.
Well, I'm not sure what information you're looking at, but I'm actually glad you brought up the LPGA because that's something that the vast majority of golf reporters and golf fans aren't aware of. The Saudis already sponsor LPGA golf.
Right.
The Aramco series. And here's another case of hypocrisy in my mind. Golf Channel, which of course my former employer, and we left on the best of terms, and that remains so, but it doesn't keep me from criticizing them. Golf Channel will not treat Live Golf as a real entity or as reporting scores and results. It certainly pays attention to the news side of it, what's happening.
Right.
So on one end, there's and part of that again because of the relationship of that golf league with the Saudis. So it's like, well, if that's the case, then why was it okay for Golf Channel to carry live all of the rounds the last couple of years of the Aramco series through the Women's European Tour?
Right.
again, it's like, it's like, pay attention, people,
Yeah.
and be upfront and be transparent and be honest.
Yeah.
And that's my criticism. But yeah, so the money's they're already involved in it, and the Saudi royal family is involved in lots of sports, and I do believe that it is sports washing, and and that's what makes their business model so troublesome for the PGA Tour. It's very difficult to compete against somebody who doesn't care if they lose money.
Right.
They're in this, as far as I can tell, they're in this to try to build their image with the Western world, and they've made this clear in many of their statements. I'm referring to the Saudi royal family, and that they want to be able to do business with the entire world.
Right.
And in business that's more than oil, because they are smart enough to realize that maybe 20, 25 years from now, oil's not going to be the big money maker that it is today.
Right.
And they
Right.
have already tried to broaden their economic base. And part of that is to make themselves attractive to the Western world. So what do? They start doing things like golf tournaments, Formula One racing,
Right.
Professional wrestling, boxing. It's like, look at us. Isn't it great? Hey, do business with us. Aren't we great people? Isn't this a wonderful thing?
Yeah.
And they're not stupid. That's what they're trying to do.
Right.
And they can be effective. I'm not sure if I would want Greg Norman as my front man to do that, but
I think I agree with you on that. Quickly, we only got about a minute and a half left. What do you think the Masters is going to do? And I know it's your opinion with the live players.
Right. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because beyond the Masters, I think, and this is one of the things why I say that live golf is not real golf. It's exhibition golf.
Right. Right.
It's 54 holes. It's a shotgun start, which is a joke. I mean, it looks like, an outing at your club.
Right.
And just pay attention to the Open and how important it was at the Open at the Old Course to finish up, everybody finishing on 17 and 18 the way it did.
Yeah.
Shotgun starts are not real tournaments. 54 holes are not real tournaments. This league that they call themselves is not worthy of world ranking points.
I totally agree with you there.
What's going to happen down the line is that these guys are going to fall in the world rankings, and the only players who are going to remain eligible in major championships such as the Masters are former champions.
Yep. And Mike, we've only got 30 seconds left, and that would mean that the Masters would have to welcome them back. And,
Correct.
we don't know they might, and they may choose not to, because it'll take away from the Masters. And they really don't want to do that.
No.
All right. Mike, appreciate it. I know it's cut short. I always love talking to you. We'll do it again soon, but thank you for being with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. Really appreciate it. And best to you, and I hope we talk again soon.
We will. Thanks. Mike Ritz, former Golf Channel announcer, now a writer, and just writes about all this stuff. And thank you for being with us right here on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, heard every Saturday and Sunday right here on ESPNCoastal.com.
Hey, this is John